The killer is in this room. The Curvy Perfumer's warning barely echoed before the Mafia boss slammed the vault door, trapping 11 high society guests beneath 20 loaded guns. The scent of night ash hung heavy in the air, a forbidden formula she had created to erase the smell of gun oil and burned flesh. A formula she was supposed to have destroyed years ago. But when the guards swept the room, the deadly fragrance trailed straight to her own coat. Guns cocked, eyes narrowed. Then her trembling fingers found a hidden bottle stitched inside her lining, stamped with the boss's private seal, and she realized she hadn't just been framed to take the fall. She had been brought here to die with him. Iris Bellamy held the black glass vial between 2 fingers and looked across the silent vault at Dante Russo, broad-shouldered in a black dinner jacket. He remained composed while the guests froze around him. His dark gaze shifted from the vial to Iris. "My seal," he said, "on your coat." It was not an accusation yet. That made it more dangerous. Iris examined the silver stamp pressed into the wax around the stopper, a wolf's head inside a broken circle. "It looks like your seal." "There is a difference?" asked Nico Russo, Dante's elegant cousin, from beside the champagne cart. "There is always a difference." Iris lifted the bottle toward the amber display lights. Her full, soft figure drew attention before her voice did, and people often mistook softness for uncertainty. Tonight, she let them. The left ear of the wolf is too deep. Whoever copied the press made it from an impression, not the original dye. Dante did not look at Nico or at the other guests. Till his security chief stepped closer. Theo Rusk was square-faced, silver at the temples, and holding his weapon low rather than pointing it at Iris. "The original press is in the family archive," he said. "2 keys, Mina and Mr. Russo's. Then someone copied it." Iris replied, "Or one of you is lying." Dante had already activated the vault's emergency lock, sealing the bronze door and every phone inside. None of that worried Iris as much as the scent. Night ash existed to create absence. 7 years earlier, a contractor claimed it would clean rescue uniforms. When Iris learned it had concealed a murder, she burned every record and shattered the concentrate. Yet the ghost of her formula floated through this room. Stronger now, warmer. "Everyone stop moving," she said. The shipping magnate laughed. "You are hardly in a position to give orders." Iris ignored him and looked at Dante. "The vial in my hand isn't the source." One of the guards took a step back. Nico's brows lifted. "You just said the scent was on her coat." "It is. But night ash changes as it evaporates. This bottle was opened recently, maybe 10 minutes ago, and sewn into my lining to frame me. What I smell in the room has been warmed for at least half an hour." Dante's attention sharpened, where Iris closed her eyes and slowed her breathing. "Bergamot, rose, vetiver, tobacco, cold metal, champagne, old wood." Beneath them lay a blankness too deliberate to be natural. She followed it past Nico, past 2 donors, toward Dante. When she opened her eyes, every gun was still angled her way. "On you." A guard raised his weapon higher. Dante lifted one finger, stopping him. Iris approached until only a foot separated them. She remembered a consultation 6 months earlier, when she had told him his fragrance smelled of grief trapped under expensive cedar. Tonight, the clean spice at his throat could not hide the empty trail of night ash pressed into his collar. "May I?" she asked. Dante tipped his chin. Iris touched the edge of his lapel. His guards tensed. But he remained still. The fabric was damp beneath the silk. She leaned close enough that her cheek nearly brushed his chest and drew one careful breath. Night ash. Yes, but something else rode underneath it. Bitter almond would have been too obvious. This was green. Waxy. Almost like crushed daffodil stems. Her stomach tightened. Take off the jacket. Why? Because someone didn't only plan to shoot you. Dante removed it without argument. The lining had been misted, from shoulder to cuff. Theo caught it with a handkerchief and placed it on the marble tasting table. A fainter trace clung to Dante's shirt. There's a cardiac toxin in the carrier. Heat and movement release it. The night ash is hiding the medicinal odor. How long? Dante asked. I don't know the concentration. Nico moved away from the champagne. We need a doctor. We need the air shut down first. Iris said. If the same mist is in the vents, a violent cough cut her off. One of the guards beside the eastern cabinet staggered, pressed a fist to his chest, and dropped to one knee. Panic broke the stillness. The collector lunged for the door. Theo shouted for everyone to stay where they were. Dante caught the collapsing guard before his head struck the floor, then looked at Iris. Tell me what to do. No powerful man had ever offered her command so plainly. She pointed at the vent above the eastern wall. Kill circulation. Open the emergency charcoal drawers under the cabinets. No flame. No sparks. Get him flat. But don't elevate his legs. Theo keyed a code into the wall panel. The fans continued to hum. Controls aren't responding. Manual shut-off utility corridor outside the vault. The collector began pounding on the bronze door. Then unlock it. If we open that door, Iris said, we may feed the aerosol through the entire building. She checked the guard's skipping pulse. Lucia, wet your scarf. Del, open the charcoal drawers. They packed charcoal around the damp cloth covering his mouth, while Dante tore open a jammed medical cabinet with his belt. Theo administered the emergency injector and oxygen. The guard, Aaron, began breathing more steadily. Relief moved through the room. But Iris had learned long ago that relief was when killers acted. The ventilation hum stopped. Not gradually. Abruptly. Then came the metallic click of the vault unlocking. Theo looked at his untouched panel. I didn't do that. The bronze door slid open 6 inches. A gloved hand appeared through the gap and rolled a silver canister across the floor. A sharp green note reached Iris before the device finished spinning. Down, Dante covered her with his body as Theo kicked the canister into an empty display alcove. White vapor erupted. The nearest guests screamed and scattered. Iris pressed her face against Dante's shirt. Using the clean cotton as a filter, his weight pinned her to the carpet. Solid and protective. His heartbeat steady against her ear, despite the poison already absorbed through his jacket. Theo fired twice through the narrowing door. Someone outside returned a shot. Glass shattered above them, releasing a waterfall of priceless bottles. The air became chaos rose. Amber, civet, alcohol, cheddar, poison. Iris could no longer isolate night ash. That was exactly what the attacker wanted. Dante raised his head. Blood marked his jaw where a shard had cut him. Can you move? Yes. Stay behind me. No. Turn left. He stared at her. Why? The vapor is sinking. The carrier is heavy. The highest clean air is on the tasting platform. She grabbed Aaron beneath one arm while Theo took the other. Dante herded the guests toward the raised marble stage. Even as the aerosol spread ankle-high like pale fog, the emergency door began to close again. Through the gap, Iris saw a figure in a catering jacket retreat into the corridor. She saw no face, only a strip of bright blue tape around one shoe and a movement too balanced for a waiter. "Blue tape," she shouted. Theo fired, but the door sealed. The room went dark. Backup lights turned on seconds later, bathing every face in red. The city councilman was gone. "Where's Holloway?" Lucia demanded. A woman pointed toward the eastern cabinets. They found the councilman lying between two cases, his champagne glass shattered near his hand. Unlike Erin, he had no pulse. There was a narrow puncture behind his left ear. Dante studied the dead man, while Theo checked the others. He wasn't the target, Nico said softly. Iris looked at the spreading mixture of perfume and poison below the platform. No, he was the exit. Dante understood. His invitation got someone into the building. Theo pulled a slim plastic access card from Holloway's inner pocket. The vault's emergency code blinked on its screen. The dead councilman had either smuggled in the attacker or been robbed after granting access. Iris looked toward the display alcove where the canister had landed. White vapor no longer poured from it. "I need that device." Theo started to object, but Dante handed Iris a pair of nitrile gloves from the medical kit. "You heard her." She approached along the raised edge, staying above the low cloud, and used brass tasting tongs to lift the canister. Its release valve bore a faint smear of translucent oil, holding the tongs at a safe distance. She caught the residue of night ash, the green toxin, and one tiny note that did not belong, a charred purple flower. Earthy and sweet. "Smoked orris," she whispered. "What does that mean?" Lucia asked. "It means this was made by someone who knew my earliest version. I removed smoked orris from the final formula because it left residue on metal. Only 3 people ever worked with that draft." "Name them," Nico said. Iris looked at the counterfeit Russo seal on the bottle from her coat. "Me, my former mentor, Julian Cross, and the man who financed our laboratory." "Who?" Dante asked. "I never knew." Julian kept the investor anonymous. Nico gave a humorless smile. "Convenient." Dante's gaze settled on him. "So is your eagerness. Our cousin has poison in his bloodstream. A councilman is dead, and the formula belongs to her. I'm eager to survive." Dante rose and addressed the 11 people he had locked inside. "Until I know which of you carried a killer through that door, none of you leaves my custody." The shipping magnate protested that this was kidnapping. Dante glanced at the dead councilman. "Call it hospitality." Theo's phone buzzed as the system came back online. He read the message and swore. "Police and fire crews are upstairs. Someone triggered the alarm 12 minutes before Iris warned us. The trap had been prepared before she touched the bottle. The attacker expected authorities to arrive at the exact moment a forbidden chemical weapon was found on her. Inside a vault controlled by Dante Russo, beside a dead public official. It would destroy her and weaken him in the same photograph. Iris met Dante's eyes. "If the police test my coat, they will arrest me. If I remove you before they arrive, they will call you my accomplice. What do you call me?" His answer came without hesitation. "The only person in this building who kept my man alive." He turned to Theo. "Use the north medical exit. Take Erin to Steet. Vincent's under Lucia's name. Keep the guests in the gallery and give the police the vault exactly as it is." Theo nodded, then looked at Iris. and her Dante held out his hand. She comes with me. Iris did not take it. To disappear. To find who stole your formula. Your guards just aimed at me. They will never make that mistake again. That sounds like an order to trust you. No. He lowered his hand but did not step away. It is a request to stay alive for the next hour. After that, you can decide again. Sirens throbbed through the ceiling. Iris had spent 7 years building Bellamy Atelier from one rented room, refusing investors who wanted her smaller, quieter, easier to own. Leaving with a Mafia boss could burn all of it. Staying would place her in handcuffs while the real killer carried night ash into the city. She picked up the counterfeit bottle with the tasting tongs, sealed it in an evidence pouch, and finally put her gloved hand in Dante's. 1 hour, she said. His fingers closed around hers. Then I had better make every minute count. The north medical exit led through a refrigerated storage corridor where shelves of raw materials rose like dark walls on both sides. Dante walked first, while Theo and Lucia carried Aaron toward an ambulance bay. A blue streak marked the tile near a service door. The attacker's shoe tape. Iris crouched. This isn't ordinary tape. It's temperature indicator film. Used on perfume shipments. Blue means the crate stayed below 50 degrees. Theo scanned the door. Access log. Says Councilman Holloway opened it at 8:14. He was already in the vault by then. Lucia said. His cloned card opened it. Iris corrected. Who received a refrigerated delivery tonight? Theo checked his phone. Rare botanicals for the unveiling. Loading Bay 3. Dante sent Lucia with Aaron to give the doctors Iris's toxin notes. Bring her out of this clean. Lucia said, meaning Iris. I intend to. Then Dante. Iris. And Theo crossed the loading area. Police voices echoed on the floor above. But Loading Bay 3 was empty, except for an overturned refrigeration crate. Inside lay damp straw, broken vials, and a catering jacket. The attacker had entered dressed as a delivery worker, changed into the jacket, then slipped through Holloway's cloned access route. Iris picked up a piece of straw with tongs and tested the trace in the air. Salt, diesel, bruised green leaves, smoked orris. The raw material came by boat. Half the luxury goods in Manhattan come by boat, Theo said. Not with live orris rhizomes packed in seaweed. They rot easily. Whoever made night ash is cultivating the ingredient locally and moving it cold. Dante's phone vibrated. He read the screen. Jaw tightening. Your studio is being searched. Iris's chest constricted. By police firearms task force and federal chemical agents. An anonymous source sent them photographs of night ash production records in your office. There are no production records. There are now. She pictured her assistants. The shelves of hand-labeled extracts. The tiny brass balance her mother had given her. And the clients who trusted her with memories they could not put into words. I have to go there. That is where they want you. It is my life, which is why it is bait. You don't get to decide what my life is worth. Dante stepped closer, not blocking her path, but making her look at him. No, I decide what I am willing to lose protecting it. You met me twice, once before tonight. That doesn't improve the mathematics. I remembered you. The loading bay seemed suddenly too narrow. Because I insulted your cologne. Because everyone else told me what they thought I wanted to hear. You told me I was wearing grief like armor. Was I wrong? No. Theo found a night ash sampler dart hidden in the crate. intended to contaminate both of them if police arrived. We need a controlled location. Not one of yours, Iris said. If someone copied Dante's seal and corrupted the vault controls, his properties are compromised. Then, where Dante asked, she thought of a place no Russo security manifest would list. Somewhere filled with living odors too complex for night ash to erase. My mother's greenhouse in Queens. The greenhouse stood behind a narrow brick house that had been empty since Iris's mother moved to assisted living. Its glass roof glowed under the city sky, panes fogged by the heat of citrus trees and night-blooming flowers. Iris entered alone first, checked the alarm strip, and opened the side door for Dante and Theo. Dante had replaced his poisoned jacket with a plain black shirt from the medical vehicle. Without tailored armor around him, he looked less like a legend and more like a tired man hiding a headache. "Sit," Iris told him. "I'm fine. You inhaled an unknown dose. I have had worse evenings. Were any of them fatal?" Theo looked away to hide a smile. Dante sat on the wooden potting bench. Iris washed her hands, found her mother's old field kit, and clipped a monitor to his finger. His pulse was too slow. "The toxin is active." Theo reached for his phone. Iris stopped him. "A hospital will report him. And whoever prepared this may have planned for standard treatment. I need to identify the carrier first." She took a clean glass funnel and held it near Dante's collarbone without touching him. His skin radiated heat. "I have to smell your neck. You say that like a threat. Keep talking and it will become one." He tilted his head. She leaned in, bracing one hand on the bench beside his thigh. The intimacy struck harder than it had in the vault. No guns pointed at her now. No audience watched. There was only the warmth of his throat inches from her mouth, beneath soap and cedar. The toxin opened like crushed narcissus. "Oleandrine analo," she said. "Synthetic. The dose on your jacket was designed to slow your heart over several hours, so your death would look natural after the scandal broke." Dante's eyes stayed on her face. "Can you stop it? I can slow absorption while Theo gets the correct antidote." She applied a charcoal binding cream along his neck and wrists. He unbuttoned his shirt, revealing old scars, and his hand paused beside her waist. "May I?" She nodded. He held her as though softness and strength had never contradicted each other. "Your pulse dropped," she said. That sounded worried. It was scientific. Theo returned 20 minutes later with medication from a discreet physician. After the injection, Dante's color improved. His first action was to remove his hand from Iris's waist before she could feel trapped by it. His second was to hand her a phone. On the screen, news footage showed agents carrying boxes from Bellamy Atelier. A headline identified Iris as a person of interest in the Aurelia chemical attack. Her former mentor, Julian Cross, appeared in an old photograph beside her. His face circled in red. "They found a ledger," Theo said. "Transfers from a Russo shell company to your laboratory 7 years ago. I never saw Russo money." Dante studied the image. "The shell company did not belong to me, but it had your family name behind it. Many did. Who controlled it?" He did not answer quickly enough. Iris looked from him to Theo. "Who?" Nico supervised specialty imports at that time. Dante said. The greenhouse fans seemed to fade. Nico had stood 3 yards from her in the vault. He had pushed hardest to name her guilty. Yet suspicion was not proof. And an obvious clue could be another layer of the frame. If Nico financed Julian, why attend tonight and risk exposure? Because tonight was not only an assassination, Dante said. Tomorrow I was scheduled to announce that all Russo shipping would leave private enforcement and enter audited commercial control. Nico's division would lose its cash routes and most of its power. My death delays that vote. Your arrest gives him the criminal chemist who supposedly killed me. Theo's phone chimed. Aaron is conscious. He remembers a man brushing Dante's jacket before the vault opened. Catering uniform. Blue tape. He also remembers something else. The man wore a signet ring with the wolf seal. A copy, Iris said. Dante nodded. Or a public clue meant to point inward. He rose too quickly and gripped the bench. Iris pushed him back down. You are not leaving yet. My council meets at midnight. If I am absent, Nico controls the room. If you collapse there, he controls your funeral too. Then come with me. Iris laughed once. Without humor. Walk into a Mafia council while the news calls me a chemical murderer. They will not expect it. That is not a reason. No, this is. Dante unlocked a message sent to Iris's business account. It showed a photograph taken through the greenhouse glass less than 5 minutes earlier. Iris stood bent over Dante's bare chest. A red circle had been drawn around her head. Beneath it were 6 words: you destroyed the bottles. Not the memory. Theo immediately killed the lights. A shot cracked through the roof. One pane exploded. Dante dragged Iris behind the brick planting wall, while Theo fired toward a neighboring rooftop. Another round punched through a citrus trunk. Clear liquid sprayed from the wound in the bark. Not sap. Smoked orris cut through the air. The tree, she shouted. Get away from it. A tiny incendiary charge embedded in the bullet ignited. Flame raced over the treated leaves and leapt to a shelf of alcohol extracts. The greenhouse became orange in a breath. Smoke rolled across the glass ceiling. Dante shielded Iris from falling panes. Taking a cut across his forearm, Theo forced the side door. But fire blocked the path. The rear door had been chained from outside. Roof vent, Iris said. Coughing. Manual wheel above the central trellis. Dante looked up. It was 12 feet high. Surrounded by burning vines. I'll reach it. You can barely stand. My mother built this place. I know what can hold me. She climbed the iron trellis through blistering heat and found the wheel sealed with pine resin. Pruning alcohol softened it. But her burned palm slipped as Dante climbed below her. Iris wrapped both arms through the spokes and dropped her full weight. The wheel spun. Roof panels lifted. And the superheated smoke surged upward. Drawing flame away from the rear aisle, the trellis buckled exactly as she had warned. Dante caught her when she fell. His injured arm gave way, and they hit the wet soil together. Theo shot the chain off the rear door. They stumbled into the alley, seconds before the greenhouse roof collapsed. Iris lay on the pavement. Dante's body curved around hers while embers rained over his back. Her mother's lemon trees, her jasmine, and her first work table burned behind them. They knew this place. She whispered through tears. Julian knew. Dante's jaw hardened. Where is he? He has a cabin laboratory north of the city. He stopped teaching after his wife became ill. Address, I haven't spoken to him in 3 years. That was not my question. Iris pushed herself upright. You think he did this? I think someone who knew the greenhouse photographed us and tried to burn you alive. Julian betrayed my formula. I don't know if he betrayed me. Compassion is valuable. Do not let a guilty man use it as a weapon. She looked at the cut on Dante's arm, the blood darkening his sleeve where he had covered her. And suspicion is valuable. Don't let it become the only language you understand. Theo found a spent dart on the opposite roof and a discarded radio. But the shooter was gone. Sirens approached again. Dante stood and offered Iris his hand. This time she took it, without bargaining for an hour. "We go to Julian," she said, "but I question him." "Agreed. And if he is frightened?" No guns in his face. Dante looked at Theo, then back at her. "One gun. None. Concealed. I will know if you lie." A tired spark entered his eyes. "Then I suppose we are going unarmed." Iris glanced at the burning greenhouse as poisoned Oris drifted beneath the smoke. Whoever was hunting them believed fire could erase origins. They had forgotten that destruction had an odor too. Julian Cross's cabin sat beside an abandoned apple orchard 2 hours north of Manhattan. Its windows dark and its chimney cold. Dawn had begun to pale the sky when Theo stopped the car beyond the tree line. Dante had obeyed Iris's demand in the most technical way possible. He carried no visible weapon. But Theo's coat hung suspiciously heavy, and 2 cars of guards waited half a mile away. Iris knocked alone. No answer. On the 3rd knock, the sharp tang of solvent bit at her nostrils from beneath the door. Julian A. glass object shattered inside. She tried the handle. Unlocked. Dante caught her wrist before she entered. "You asked for no guns." "Not no caution." He stepped ahead, using the door as a shield. The cabin's front room had been converted into a crude laboratory. Retorts, copper coils, and dark bottles covered every surface. Julian stood at the rear bench with a match trembling over an open bowl of alcohol. He had aged 20 years since Iris last saw him. His white hair was uncombed, and his narrow shoulders bent under a wool sweater stained with chemicals. "Don't come closer," he said. "I will burn all of it." The open bowl carried only raw alcohol and solvent. "That isn't night ash." His eyes filled. "You can still tell. Put down the match." "They will kill you if I do. They already tried." She showed him the burns across her palm. Julian's face collapsed. The match fell unlit onto the bench. Dante closed the door behind them. "Tell us who." Julian stared at him. "A Russo asks me to name a Russo. One of us is attempting to murder her. Choose carefully." "Nico," Julian whispered. The name did not bring relief. It made every earlier clue feel heavier. Iris stepped toward her former mentor. "You sold him my formula. I sold him the draft. I told myself it was harmless, after night ash concealed a murder in Marseille." Julian knew better. Yet his wife needed experimental treatment. And Nico offered money before threatening her life, even after she died. Julian stayed silent because Nico held his notes, signatures, and recordings. And because I was a coward, he admitted. Dante leaned against the wall, conserving strength, though he would never admit it. "Where is it produced?" "I don't know the current site. Nico moved cultivation after the river lab flooded. The Oris needs mineral-heavy water and controlled cold storage. He brought me samples twice a year. I only evaluated stability. Can you prove this?" "Not with paper." Nico never wrote what he could say. But every batch carries a flaw. Iris felt the first true opening in the case. The ghost note. Julian looked at her sharply. "You found it charred Oris on metal. That is the obvious residue. I added another marker after Evelyn died. Something Nico never noticed, because night ash suppresses it on skin." He reached for a small scent strip, then stopped at Dante's expression. Iris nodded for him to continue. Julian opened a tin of dried material. Mountain laurel honey. Heated past caramelization. It forms a trace molecule that appears only after the masking accord meets salt water. I put it into every stabilizer I sent him. Theo stepped into the cabin. We can test the canister from the vault. Not here, Iris said. She looked around the laboratory. Many bottles were dusty, but a clean circular mark stood on the bench beside Julian. Who was here before us? Julian went still. No one. The solvent under the door was fresh. You planned to burn the room before I knocked. Someone warned you. Dante's voice turned quiet. Who Nico called 20 minutes ago. He said Iris had killed Councilman Holloway and was coming to silence me. He told me to destroy everything and run. Why did you believe him? Iris asked. Julian looked at her burned hand. Because fear does not require belief, only possibility. A faint electronic chirp sounded from beneath the chair. Theo shoved Julian aside and lifted a tracking puck taped under the seat. We led them here. Gunfire struck the cabin. Julian led them into a root cellar. But gasoline and acetone tainted his escape tunnel before a tripwire could ignite it. The only safe route was a clay irrigation channel leading to the orchard well. They crawled through mud and darkness, while Dante kept Iris's panic at bay by making her name each scent rust. Apple roots, and his terrible lawyer's waiting room soap. They emerged inside a stone well, before Iris could scold him. The cider shed erupted in flame. The blast folded the cabin inward. Had they used the tunnel door, all four would have died. Dante watched the fire for 1 second, then turned to Julian. Nico no longer needs you alive. Julian lowered his soot-streaked face. That is clear now. Good. Fear may finally make you useful. They reached the waiting cars and drove to a private clinic owned by no Russo company. There, the vault canister was swabbed and mixed with saline. 20 minutes later, a heated sample released the dark, almost edible scent of burned honey. Julian's marker. It proved his stabilizer had been used, but it did not identify Nico. Dante's counsel would call Julian a frightened chemist, buying immunity with an accusation. Police would call him Iris's co-conspirator. They needed the production source or a witness inside Nico's operation. Dante convened the family council remotely from the clinic. Iris waited in the adjacent room with Julian and Theo. But the old building's thin walls carried every word. Nico sounded wounded rather than defensive. You vanished with the woman whose chemical killed Holloway. Federal agents found her records. Now her mentor names me after spending the night in her custody. You expect the council to accept that I expect nothing. Dante said, I am telling you, the vote is suspended until I return. You no longer control the vote. Another man agreed. A third said the family could not appear to shelter a terrorist. Nico proposed a solution: surrender Iris and Julian to federal authorities, allow an independent investigation, and place Dante on medical leave. The motion passed 5-3. Silence followed. Dante, Theo said under his breath. In the next room. Dante spoke with the calm of a man standing at the edge of a blade. Every one of you voting for this should understand what happens now. Iris Bellamy saved Aaron's life. She identified the poison designed to kill me. She walked into fire while my own people argued over liability. I will not trade her for the appearance of order. Nikosihil. Then you choose a stranger over your family. No. I choose the person who acted like family when mine did not. He ended the call. Theo looked at his phone. Access notifications arrived one after another. Dante had lost control of family security accounts. 3 warehouses. the vehicle network, and the voting trust that authorized public business decisions. By protecting her, he had surrendered power men, killed to keep. Iris entered his room. He sat on the examination table while a doctor removed the charcoal paste from his skin. "You should have given me a choice," she said. "They wanted you in chains. I have survived people judging me. Not this kind. You don't know what kinds I have survived." He dismissed the doctor with a glance, then met her anger without defending himself. "You are right." That stopped her. "About what I made a decision involving your life without asking you. My reason does not change that." Most powerful men apologized by explaining why the other person had forced them to be wrong. Dante simply let the admission stand. Iris sat beside him. "I would not have surrendered. I believe you." "Then why did you?" "Because I have spent years claiming that my family's loyalty means protection. But protection that disappears when it costs power is only a performance." His voice lowered. "And because the idea of them using you to preserve my chair made me want to burn the chair." Iris looked at the bruises and cuts marking him from one night spent beside her. "You barely know me. I saw you run toward a poisoned man, find a false seal under guns, and use the fire that destroyed your greenhouse to uncover a clue. Fear has not ruled you. That isn't everything. No. I would like time for the rest. You may not have a family when this is over." She said, "Blood is an origin, not an excuse. And if you lose, then Nico inherits an empire he has already poisoned." Dante lifted her burned hand and looked at the reddened skin. "But he does not get you with it." Iris should have pulled away. Instead, she turned her palm and threaded her fingers through his. "You do not get me either. I understand. Say it like you believe it. You are not a thing to be gotten." His thumb moved once across her knuckles. "You are a woman I hope will choose to remain after she is free to leave." She kissed him before fear could translate desire into an argument. Dante held perfectly still for the first heartbeat, giving her room to change her mind. Then his hand settled at her waist and he kissed her back slow and controlled. The restraint more devastating than hunger. For one suspended moment, there was only the safety of being wanted without being claimed. Theo knocked once and entered. Lucia found something. Dante did not release her hand. Theo placed a tablet before them. Security footage from the vault showed Nico arriving at 7:40. Apparently empty-handed. At 7:43, he embraced Councilman Holloway. For half a second, Nico's hand disappeared inside the councilman's coat. He planted the cloned card. Iris said, "It suggests it." Theo replied, "It doesn't prove what was on the card." And Nico will say the embrace was ordinary. Lucia appeared on video call from the hospital. Aaron remembered one more detail. The fake caterer smelled like wintergreen beneath the night ash. He thought it was gum. Julian's head lifted. "Not gum. Methyl salicylate. We use it to clean Oris grinders because ordinary detergent ruins the rhizome." "Could it trace a site?" Dante asked. Julian shook his head. "Any supplier sells it." Iris replayed the footage. Nico's cuff brushed Holloway's collar during the embrace. On the white linen appeared a faint, rusty streak. Pause. Enlarge his sleeve. A narrow reddish mark stained the edge of Nico's cuff. "Oris soil," Julian said. "Iron-rich clay." "No," Iris replied. "Oris soil is pale. That stain is algae pigment mixed with rust." She thought of the saline test. The way the honey marker emerged only in salt water, and the cold crates entering by boat. He is growing the rhizomes in a flooded structure, an old ship tank or dry dock, using harbor permits for refrigerated botanicals instead of hidden ownership. Theo and Lucia found one suspicious shipment. It had been unloaded at Pier 18, a decommissioned ocean liner terminal leased to Meridian Restoration, a company Julian recognized as Nico's intermediary. "That is the laboratory," he said. "Or another trap," Dante replied. Iris stood. "Both can be true." Dante began buttoning a clean shirt. "You stay here." She laughed so sharply, Julian flinched. Dante closed his eyes once. Bad choice of words. Catastrophic. "The site will be armed and filled with scent traps your men cannot detect. You need me. I need you alive. Then stop treating those as opposing goals." He held her gaze. The instinct to command fought visibly with the lesson he had claimed to understand. Finally, he nodded. "You lead the laboratory entry. Theo leads security. I follow both." Iris picked up her field kit. "Now you are learning." They left before noon in an unmarked delivery van because Dante's vehicle network belonged to Nico. 3 loyal guards joined them by individual choice, not family order. The smallness of the team made the cost of Dante's decision visible. No armored convoy. No army waiting for a gesture. Only 6 people. 1 disgraced perfumer, and a former mentor whose courage had arrived 7 years late. As the harbor came into view, rain sharpened the air over the river. Beneath it, even through the van's closed vents, waited the faint charred sweetness of night ash. Pier 18 looked abandoned, but refrigeration exhaust trembled above its roof. Theo cut the fence power while Dante's 3 loyal guards spread along the seawall. Julian remained in the van. Iris, Dante, and Theo entered through a side hatch. Inside, steel corridors descended into the dry dock, and pipes carried chilled brine toward chambers beneath the river line. Dante's jaw tightened as a surge of dizziness struck the residual toxin fighting the antidote, and one hand found the wall until his footing steadied. Iris noticed, slowed their pace, and made him meet her eyes before they continued. She stopped at the first junction. Both passages appeared empty, but the left smelled of peppermint cleaner. "They want us left. We go right. Wintergreen marks the grinders," Theo said. "Exactly. Too much of it. Too close to the door. It is bait." They took the right corridor and found a viewing gallery above a flooded ship repair basin. Hundreds of orris plants grew on suspended trays beneath purple lamps. Workers in masks moved between copper stills and sealed blending booths. At the center stood crates bearing the Aurelia perfume house seal. Nico had built an invisible weapon factory inside a place no normal investigator would search, then moved its product through luxury fragrance shipments. Theo photographed everything. Dante pointed to an office at the far end. "Server controls." Iris caught his sleeve. "Wait." A transparent film coated the gallery rail. Night ash. The corridor ahead was dry, yet droplets trembled on the ceiling. "Pressure nozzles," she said. "If we cross the sensor, the hole fills with carrier." Theo located the beam. "Can bypass. Not before the cameras see us." Dante studied the workers below. "We need a sample and the production log." "No," Iris said. "We need the marker source. A sample proves night ash exists. Not who ordered it." She followed the scent of caramelized honey toward a narrow maintenance stair. They descended behind the grow trays, hidden by vapor. At the base, a masked technician rolled a drum past them. Dante caught him silently, and Theo restrained him. Iris removed the man's mask. She recognized him from her studio. Evan, her junior compounder, stared at her in terror. He admitted planting the records, copying her key, and sewing the vial into her coat, claiming Nico promised no one would die. Dante stepped forward, but Iris blocked him. He is my witness. Where are the orders stored? Nico never uses the server. He carries formula tickets in a black case. He burns them after each batch. Where is the case? He came down 10 minutes ago. Control office. Dante glanced toward the far gallery. He knew we were coming. No, Evan said. He is preparing a shipment for tonight. 12 aerosol cylinders labeled as fire suppressant. He said the council would gather at the Aurelia Conservatory to announce Dante's removal. Nico planned to kill not one man, but the leaders who might later question his authority. Using Iris's formula to erase the firing residue or conceal a second poison. What is in the cylinders? She asked. Night ash and oleandrin. Same as the vault. Stronger concentration. Theo contacted Lucia. But the call failed. A siren chirped once. Red lights came on. Nico's voice filled the gallery speakers. Cousin, I wondered how much of your kingdom you would sacrifice for a woman who smells lies. Steel shutters dropped over every exit. Workers fled through lower tunnels. Iris Bellamy. Nico continued. You should be proud. Your invention will settle a family dispute that has lasted 3 generations. Iris scanned the pipes. He is pressurizing the system. Dante moved in front of her. How long? Maybe 2 minutes. Nico appeared behind the glass of the control office. Black case in hand. He smiled and held up a remote. You could have surrendered her. Dante. The council would have forgiven your weakness. Instead, you made it romantic. Dante spoke toward the nearest camera. Open the door and face me. That is precisely why you should never have led us. You still think power is proved face to face. Nico pressed the remote. Pumps thundered. Clear liquid surged through overhead pipes. Iris ran to the nearest grow tray and plunged her hand into the brine channel. Cold, salt water. Julian's marker only appears in saline. She said, the entire cultivation system can expose the stabilizer. Theo understood first. Flood the blending line with brine. It will precipitate the masking compound and clog the nozzles, but the intake valve is on the other side of that sensor hall. Dante checked his empty hands. Tell me where to step. You cannot cross. The first nozzle dose could stop your heart. Then you go. I can smell where the pressure is weakest. That was not agreement. You said I lead the laboratory entry. He hated her logic because it was his promise returned intact. Iris took Evan's mask, soaked its outer layer in charcoal suspension from her kit, and tied her hair back. When I reached the valve, reverse the pump. How? Theo asked. Evan pointed toward a manual lever. The uneven concentration told Iris that the third of 6 nozzles was clogged with orris residue. Dante caught her hand. If the vapor changes, come back. She kissed him once. Make sure forward works. She entered the sensor beam, held her breath, and ran beneath the third nozzle. At the midpoint, an alarm changed pitch, and the clogged nozzle cleared with a violent spray. She dropped, slid across the wet floor, and crashed into the valve wheel. Her lungs burned for air. Through the glass, Nico watched with sudden alarm. Iris turned the wheel. It resisted. She braced both feet against the wall and pulled. Nothing. Dante stepped into the corridor. "No," she shouted, wasting precious breath. His balance failed once, and his shoulder struck the wall. But he reached her before the toxin could force him down. He wrapped his hands over hers, spending his remaining strength on one violent pull. Together they tore the wheel open. Now Iris yelled. Theo reversed the pump. Salt water roared through the production pipes. The clear vapor above them turned amber as Julian's honey marker bloomed. Sticky precipitate clogged one nozzle. Then another. Pumps screamed. A pipe burst over the grow basin, raining dark fluid onto the white floor and marking every contaminated line. Nico slammed his remote repeatedly. The control office door unlocked as the emergency system failed. He ran. Theo pursued him while Dante carried Iris from the corridor. She coughed against his shoulder. "Put me down." "No. That is becoming a habit. Complain when you can breathe." An explosion shook the lower dock. Nico had triggered charges in the server room. Flames rolled toward the blending booths. Evan shouted that the aerosol cylinders would rupture if heated. 12 high-pressure canisters filled with toxin could poison half the waterfront. "Emergency floodgate," Iris said. "The dry dock can be filled from the river." Evan pointed at the control office. "Nico has the only mechanical key." Dante set Iris on her feet. Where did he run? A trail of amber droplets crossed the floor. The saline reaction had stained night ash on Nico's shoes. For the first time, the formula designed to erase guilt made its wearer visible. Iris followed the trail into the old turbine chamber. Theo lay near the entrance, conscious but bleeding from a blow to the head. His pistol was gone. Nico stood on the upper catwalk with Theo's gun in one hand and the black formula case in the other. The mechanical floodgate key hung from his neck. "Enough," Dante said. His unsteady pulse kept him at the foot of the stairs. But he stepped into the open with no weapon and drew Nico's aim away from Iris. "You chose her over all of us. I chose a future you could not steal from. You think she loves you. She loves being the one person in the room you need. Once this ends, what is she?" Iris climbed the opposite stairs. Hidden by the turbine housing, Nico kept his attention on Dante. "She is free to answer that herself." Dante said, "That is why you will lose. You cannot imagine loyalty that was not purchased with fear." Nico laughed. "And you cannot imagine shooting family." His finger tightened. The sudden bite of gun oil opened in the air. Night ash on Nico's skin could hide the residue later. But not before the shot. She hurled a glass sample vial against the catwalk. It shattered beside him, releasing concentrated skunk accord from her field kit. Nico recoiled, gagging, and fired wide. Dante crossed the floor. But Nico swung the gun toward Iris. "You ruin everything you create." He snarled. "Not everything." She charged the last steps and drove the metal field case into his wrist. The gun fell through the railing. Nico struck her across the face. She staggered, tasted blood, then wrapped both hands around the cord at his throat and pulled. The floodgate key snapped free. Nico grabbed the black case instead of pursuing her. That choice told Iris what he valued. He ran toward the upper exit as she threw the key down to Dante. "Control office." Dante caught it and forced his failing legs back toward the controls. Nico reached a glass-enclosed blending booth built into the catwalk. Amber contamination covered the handle. He stopped, realizing too late that touching it would stain him with the marker visible to every camera and investigator. Iris advanced. "You wore night ash because you believed no one could smell what you had done." I can still leave you to burn. Then why are you running with the records? Nico looked at the black case. Fear revealed that the tickets held payments and names because he never trusted the people he bought. He pulled a lighter and opened the case. Iris rushed him. Nico flicked the wheel, but the flame touched air saturated with alcohol vapor. A blue flash crawled over his sleeve. He screamed and dropped the lighter. The suppression system had been disabled, but Iris seized the cold brine hose from the wall and blasted him off his feet. The black case slid into the blending booth. Nico lunged after it. Iris slammed the glass door and turned the external lock. He struck the pane, trapped beside the proof he had tried to save. Open it. The room is fire-rated. Iris said, You will live. The cylinders won't. Below them, machinery groaned. Dante had reached the control office. The floodgate opened. River water crashed into the lower dock, extinguishing flames and lifting the aerosol cylinders before heat could rupture them. Workers and guards scrambled onto platforms as the basin filled. Nico rammed the booth door with his shoulder. The glass held. Then the room's mixing vent activated, drawing in contaminated air from the broken line. Amber marker vapor curled around him. His face changed as he realized the invisible weapon was becoming visible on his skin. His clothes. His case. Iris closed the intake valve before the dose became lethal. He would not die by her invention. Dante returned to the chamber, soaked to the waist. He climbed the stairs and stopped when he saw the bruise forming on Iris's cheek. Did he do that? He also confessed to having terrible priorities. Nico shouted through the glass. She attacked me. She contaminated the evidence. Iris pointed to the booth cameras. Independent production system. Local storage. And a continuous timestamp. Evan can authenticate it. Theo appeared below. One hand pressed to his bleeding head. So can I. Sirens approached from the harbor. Not Russo vehicles, Coast Guard, fire crews, and federal emergency units. Lucia had alerted using the charity broker's manifest. Dante looked at the black case, the marked pipes, and Nico inside the booth. You built a better cage than I would have. Iris's breathing was still rough. I left him an open door. He chose the case. Dante touched her cheek with 2 fingers. Careful of the bruise. Are you all right? Ask me when the cylinders are secure. He smiled despite everything. There you are. Authorities found 12 aerosol canisters, 300 liters of night ash stabilizer, copied Russo seals, cloned access cards, and formula tickets matching Nico's accounts. Evan's testimony, Julian's marker and bank records, the vault footage, and the black case proved one continuous conspiracy. By sunset, Nico Russo was in federal custody under armed guard. Dante was offered release in exchange for cooperation. He refused to leave until Iris's hand was treated and Theo's scans came back clean. The truth did not repair everything overnight. Bellamy Atelier remained sealed for 9 days, and news stations still paired Iris's photograph with poison and murder after prosecutors credited her with preventing mass casualties. Then Aaron and the other vault survivors publicly described how she had saved them. Iris reopened the atelier, with its windows uncovered. Julian pleaded guilty to illegal transfer of controlled chemical research and conspiracy to conceal evidence. His testimony reduced his sentence but did not erase it. Iris visited him once before the hearing. I do not forgive what you chose, she said across the interview table. You shouldn't. I also refuse to let the worst thing you did become the only truth about you. You added the marker. You helped us stop Nico. Both matter. Julian cried quietly. Evelyn would have liked the woman you became. My mother would say I was always this woman. Evan also faced charges. Iris told the truth without cruelty or protection. Knowing mercy without truth became permission. The Russo Council restored Dante's authority only after he closed violent routes, audited the docks, and released families held by fear. He did not pretend signatures made the Russo name innocent. But he stopped using tradition as an alibi. He visited Iris every evening, but never arrived unannounced. The first time, he stood outside her reopened studio, holding a lemon sapling in a ceramic pot. Iris looked from the tree to his expensive coat. Is this an apology? It is too small to replace a greenhouse. Good answer. It is also not a gift with conditions. Better. She let him in. The sapling went beside the sunny window. Dante carried shelves while contractors repaired the back laboratory. He mounted one shelf crooked, shattered a bottle of violet leaf, and laughed when Iris blamed his authority without accuracy. Over the following weeks, they learned each other beyond emergencies. When security was necessary, he explained the risk and let her choose its form. They argued, returned, and spoke honestly. Desire did not erase their differences. It made respect more urgent. One rainy night, Iris found him alone in the studio, smelling the original strip from their first consultation. She had kept it in a drawer. The fragrance was cedar, black pepper, and the dry mineral note she once called grief. I thought you bought nothing that day, she said. I paid the consultation fee. That is not what I meant. Dante set down the strip. I came because someone told me you could create a scent no one forgot. I wanted a weapon made of memory, and I refused. You told me I did not need a stronger fragrance. I needed to stop entering every room prepared to lose someone. Iris leaned against the work table. You were furious. I was terrified you were right. He drew a small object from his coat. Not jewelry. A plain brass key. The restored greenhouse. He said. Her posture stiffened. Don't. Listen first. The property remains in your mother's name. The contractors answer to you. I paid for the damage because the attack was aimed through me. But I have no deed. No access code. And no key. He set the brass key on the table between them. This is the only one. Iris stared at it. He had rebuilt the place without building himself into its ownership. Why not tell me? Because I wanted to finish one act of protection without making you manage my feelings about it. You are learning dangerous levels of emotional competence. Theo is concerned. She touched the key but did not pick it up. Come with me. They drove to Queens. The restored greenhouse had stronger glass. Manual ventilation. Young lemon trees. And an open door. Iris cried when she found a graft from the old jasmine. Dante did not interrupt grief by trying to cure it. When she reached for him, he came. Thank you, she whispered against his chest. You do not owe me those words. That is why they are mine to give. He held her until the rain softened. Then he showed her one final feature, a small blending room with glass walls and a ventilation panel designed to Iris's specifications. On the table sat an empty bottle with no label. Seal, or hidden compartment. What is this? She asked. Commission. I am not accepting Russo money for another secret formula. Nothing secret. Dante looked around the open room. Create something that hides nothing. No armor. No warning. No inherited name. A scent a man could wear when he is not asking the world to fear him. That may be harder than poison. I assumed it would be. And what does this hypothetical man offer as payment honesty? Time. The right to reject every version. Iris smiled. Terrible business terms. I was advised the perfumer is ruthless. She chose bergamot first. Not because it was cheerful, but because its brightness contained bitterness. She added cedar from his old scent in a smaller measure. Enough to acknowledge grief without letting it dominate. For patience, she used orris, not charred, masked, or weaponized, but clean root aged until its softness became strength. Dante watched from the other side of the table, making no suggestion. Your turn, she said. I know nothing about formulation. You know memory. Choose one. He examined the raw materials and selected a vial of lemon blossom from the replanted tree. This. Why? Because, after the fire, you still believed something could grow there. Iris added one drop. The fragrance opened between them. Imperfect and alive, she dipped a strip and passed it to him. Dante smelled it. What do you think? She asked. It does not smell like me. Not yet. Will it? If you keep becoming the man who can wear it. He accepted the challenge with a nod. The trial took 3 months. Nico faced murder, chemical weapons, racketeering, and corruption charges. Lucia transformed the Aurelia charity into a fund for victims of chemical abuse. With Iris as an independent advisor, on the morning the licensing board formally cleared her, reporters crowded outside Bellamy Atelier. They expected Dante to stand beside her, turning vindication into a photograph of possession. He waited across the street instead. Iris faced the cameras alone and explained night ash in terms the public could understand. A formula is not moral, she said. The choices around it are. I created something without asking enough questions about who wanted absence and why. When I learned the truth, I destroyed my work. But destruction was not the same as accountability. Today, every controlled formula at Bellamy Atelier will carry an independent chemical marker, and every client will be subject to transparent review. Beauty should reveal humanity, not erase evidence of harm. A reporter asked whether she was now under Mafia protection. Iris glanced across the street. Dante stood in the rain without an umbrella, close enough to help and far enough not to take her moment. I am under my own protection, she said, and I have people who respect that. Afterward, the board restored her license. Dante handed her coffee across the street without entering the camera frame. That evening, 11 survivors from the vault gathered in the restored greenhouse. Not for a gala, vote, or public unveiling. Iris had invited them because the story began with 11 people trapped by a scent meant to hide a killer. And she wanted it to end with them free, to leave a room filled with something honest. On the center table stood 12 unmarked bottles. The fragrance Iris had made for Dante contained no night ash, no narcissus, toxin, no smoked orris, no symbol of violence disguised as elegance. Bergamot gave way to cedar, clean iris root, rainwater mineral, and one bright trace of lemon blossom. Dante smelled the finished version and closed his eyes. Now he asked, now it smells like someone you could choose to be. He applied a single drop at his wrist. The guests sampled it, and the greenhouse filled with conversation instead of panic. No door locked. No guards aimed weapons. At midnight, the others departed until only Iris and Dante remained among the wet leaves. He stood beside the open doorway. watching summer rain silver the path outside. "The first night," he said, "I locked the vault because I believed control could keep death out. It kept everyone in with it." Dante answered with a quiet nod, then turned toward her. "When you warned me, every fact pointed to you. Your formula, your coat, my seal, almost every fact. What did I miss? You missed that I was the only person trying to find the source instead of a suspect." Dante considered that. "I trusted you because of Aaron. You trusted my competence because of Aaron. That is different. When did I trust you?" Iris walked closer. "Maybe when you let me lead you into the vapor corridor. That was the most frightening thing I have ever done. You have been shot. Bullets are simpler." She laughed. He touched her waist, waiting until her body leaned toward his before drawing her close. "And you?" he asked. "When did you trust me? Not when you took me from the vault. I assumed. Not when you defied the council. That cost me more. Trust is not purchased by sacrifice. You are ruthless. You commissioned honesty." She rested her palm over his heart, remembering how slowly it had beaten beneath poison. "I trusted you in the greenhouse after the fire, when I was crying and you did not tell me it would be all right. You stayed while it was not." Dante's expression softened. "I can do that. You already have. Iris. I cannot promise there will never be another locked room in my life. Then promise you will remember a door has two purposes. It keeps danger out and lets people leave." He looked at the open door behind him. "You may always leave." It was not romantic in the ordinary way. There was no demand hidden inside it. No dramatic claim that she belonged beside him. For Iris, it was the most intimate promise he could have made. "And if I stay," she asked, "then every day I will know it was a choice." She kissed him beneath the warm greenhouse lights, while rain scented the air with soil and new leaves. The bottle on the table remained unsealed. Years later, collectors would offer impossible sums for the first fragrance Iris Bellamy and Dante Russo created together. But she never sold that batch. She kept it as proof that the same hands capable of making a perfect disguise could also create something with nothing to conceal. Night ash had been designed to erase the trace of violence. Its defeat came from every trace. Its victims refused to hide a stain on a cuff. Honey in salt water. Grief spoken without shame. Fear admitted before it became cruelty. And a woman the world first noticed for her curves, standing at the center of the room until everyone recognized her power. Dante had locked 11 guests inside a perfume vault to trap his killer. In the end, Iris did more than identify the man wearing the scent. She taught the Mafia boss that love was the one thing he could never protect by sealing a door, and when she chose to remain, he left it open.